Okay, so we're going to talk about the drama as it relates to this particular article. It's entitled Historical Romance in Peril, Voices from the Industry. So this was published, and the backstory about this is that the author of this Substack, okay, let me get that Substack up there. The Substack is Romance and Co. The author of the Substack wanted to crowdsource authors in the genre just to kind of share their opinions on the industry, because the subtitle of this is 9 historical romance authors share their publishing experiences, insights on the current market, and expectations for the future. Sounds really good and promising, right? I agree. I mean, it sounds great. It's definitely a topic worth discussing. We three actually discussed about historical romances not receiving a lot of contracts. We're going to, kind of revisit that. Francesca, I hope you will. But this is where the problem kind of started. So on Threads, because we want to give credit where credit is due, deep.read.bell posted a screenshot on Threads of one of the author's submissions to the previous Substack that I just described. Now, the person wrote, the author is Caitlin Regal, and this was their submission to the newsletter. Absolutely, every single literary agent I have seen, even for the historical romance genre, has expected to see diversity and inclusion. I am all for proper representation of all peoples, but historical authors have the added restriction in the need for historical accuracy. My book includes diversity in an appropriate manner for the time period, including a Jamaican chef and Caribbean natives being attacked and enslaved by pirates. My main character frees these people from their captors. This level of representation was as far as I was able to go within the period specific limitations, It seems unfair to authors to be demanded to include things that may not fit our stories. The last thing we wish to do is misrepresent groups of people because we are expected to gratuitously include them. I'm gonna get into that in a second, especially because this Jamaican has opinions. Okay.
Oh my God.
Before we get to that, because we tried to come with proper reporting. Of course, it was making the rounds on Threads. Author Sarah McLean, who also is in that genre, also commented and said, okay, what we're not going to do is talk about accurate historical representation as gratuitous. Read a history book before you write a historical, damn it. But again, because we want to keep things accurate, I will say the author of the publication, the original publication, they removed the author's section, so that section that we quoted, but then they also gave a statement because again, look, they removed it, the screenshots are there and the receipts. So they decided we're going to make a statement. So this is the statement. Hello, everyone. I want to take a moment to address an author's statement in this newsletter that has since been removed. First off, I am genuinely sorry. The author shared views on diversity in historical romance that I strongly disagree with. I struggled with whether to include that part of the interview because it conflicted with my own beliefs. However, I wasn't sure how much to editorialize or edit their words. In the end, I let it stand as is. And looking back, that was the wrong choice. I truly appreciate everyone who took the time to share thoughtful comments and concerns. I should have recognized that there was no reason to platform or promote these viewpoints, and I regret that I did. I'm grateful for this community and I will do better. Moving forward, I will be more mindful about how I present different perspectives, especially when they have the potential to exclude or diminish voices that deserve to be heard. Thanks for sticking with me, and I appreciate the important conversations this has sparked. Best, Julia. Listen, I ain't even going to say anything. Francesca, save the people from my rants. What are your thoughts on this?
Where do you even start with this? Okay, let's start with historical accuracy. you can write anything. Like, people are out here writing vampires. Come on now. Don't come with, oh, the literary agent cannot tell me because it's not historical. One thing. Second, what are you talking about historical accuracy? Because there's nowhere in the world that did not center Black people in history. That's the only thing that existed. That is ridiculous. That is completely.
Listen, Black people have been saving themselves for a really long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So go read
All
a book
over the world. Come on now.
in the words of Brown Girl Reading. She needs to read Black, and she also needs to read British. All right, definitely out here saving themselves. So the fact that she is also unaware, and I love how she made the Jamaican and the Caribbean references. Okay, there's your token Jamaican, and your token Caribbean. I'm gonna tell you right now, there's so many rebellions that happened on these islands, okay? The next time you go to a hotel, just try and see if you can get an excursion done and go to these places, and the peoples will tell you the history, the real history. So the fact that she's saying like only this other random could come in and save these people. Listen, people be saving themselves. Go read a book. Nanny of the Maroons in Jamaica. Listen, these people escaped and they were living in the mountains, okay? Not every narrative is white-centered or from a certain perspective. But Laura, what did you think?
I think obviously we have issues with our education system. Like the idea, like everything's like the winners wrote the history books. Like there's actually other people talking about different things and other experiences that were lived. Like it's not just white people. History is the only one that matters, but it shows your bigotry. It shows your ignorance, and it shows the sense of like, well, that's how it only works. Obviously, like you're only showing one slice of the pie. That's a minimum slice of the pie. That's not even that interesting. Let's talk about that. Like there's obviously we should not defund the Department of Education. We should educate people. It's not again, this is probably a lady who thought DAI is not for her, but yeah, it is for you. You're a woman. Yes.
I'm also just going to interject and say real quick, I'm going to give, because you all know me, I'm always going to give people the benefit of the doubt. Clearly, this was written from a point of ignorance. I'm not going to go on a limb and say she knew all this stuff, but she chose otherwise. I think this is why it's important to legit go read a book, but also read real historical accounts. Seek out historical accounts that are outside of what is prescribed for you. Because I'm gonna tell you this, okay? I went to school in an English school system. I cannot vouch for what it was like going through an American school system, and I can't rely on kids to kind of give me the feedback because I never lived it, you know what I mean? So it's not my experience. But my family made it a priority to provide other material, okay? I recognize traveling is a privilege, not everybody can do it, but it's like, for example, we were just sharing some historical fiction books. My take is I always would get super annoyed when World War II, which, was the biggest conflict in the past 100 years, it would always reflect like European points of view, right? Like, or American point of view, or very other few. I love seeing now that we're getting how people were living during the war. That wasn't like, on the European mainland or, Americans going over there or anything else like that. Does that make sense? Like, we need the points, because other people were existing during this time. And then the last thing I'm going to say on this is, and this is something a lot of people are not familiar with, but let your token girl give you some history. Not all Black people were enslaved. Yeah. Okay? Not all of them. Right. So there's also that different point of view as well. So I'm just like, lady, read a book. Fran, I remember you were sharing earlier in a previous video about historical romance. Like, what is the state of historical romance as well? Because I think that was the original thing, the original intent. And I do want to give voice to that, the original intent of the author of this newsletter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, historical romance has been kind of on a decline for the past decade, I would say. And especially right now, publishers are not giving contracts, even for authors that are general or that would generally do well in the genre. So I totally get her point with wanting to put that out there. I am also myself trying to always work on pushing out some historical romance. I think the market has moved to whoever wants to continue writing historical romance has been kind of pushed up, forced into indie and self-publishing because the marketing dollars are not there, the contracts are not there. I would even say even the ones that are getting the contracts are not getting any marketing. Like publishers are out here not pushing historical at all. I think that has to do also with the fact that they thought that because of the Bridgerton effect, the everything would just like sell automatically, and that did not happen. But that's never going to happen unless you work on it. Like with anything, everything requires marketing, and they just don't put the marketing there. I think that also reflects back to Book Talk and the fact that Book Talk doesn't read too much historical. I think that again goes to marketing. I think if you start pushing some historical romance on those Book Talk influencers from a publisher's perspective, they may like it. Like they have expensive backlists, start sending them some books and they may actually be talking about it. But they always want to push the same things, and then they wonder why nobody's buying this other thing. Well, because you're not promoting it. So I think it falls on those indie authors and us to talk about the genre and try to get it out there. I've kind of already seen this happen with paranormal romance, and it's getting a little bit of a resurgence in a very weird kind of way, different amalgamation of it. But I think it's just that the publishers make the executive decision that this genre is dead, and they just stop buying, period. And it will probably go through a period of time where there is no traditionally published or very little traditionally published historical romance, but that just means that those stories will start to thrive in the indie market. So
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And
go ahead, Laura.
I think the other part is that the publishing is focusing on Regency, a little bit Victorian, England, and it's like there's so much more history. Like we can have Egyptians, we can have Asian, Genie and Lin. Like we can have a thriving Chinese Tang dynasty and all the different dynasties that happen, and they're just focusing on ballrooms and merch mark and the whatever almanac. Like we need to go like actually look for other things, other places of history, other non-white voices of history. Like, wouldn't it be great to have like BIPOC voices of history? Like, let's talk about their romance. Let's talk about joy. Let's talk about the good stuff that happened. The other part is that book buyers are not buying mass market paperback, which is where most of the romance were sent over because it was cheaper. Our grandmothers, our mothers bought these in the grocery store, and they were cheap and they were just easy to consume. And so we have moved away from mass market paperbacks. They're not buying it. They're not putting them on. And so we have to move to trade paperback, which means it's much more expensive. And so they're actually making those decisions like, well, we're not doing this as a mass market. We are actually doing this. And we have to justify the cost of the paper and the cost of the marketing for it. So what's getting published is the historical rom-com, which are the cutesy illustrated covers or rom-com-y. So it's kind of like a crossover from the reader into this place. So this is what they're looking for. But we're looking for the angst. We're looking for the place of like actually like just choose a cheer record, like give us like the whole story.
Yeah, absolutely. Heading over to the comments. If you are watching us live, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, we don't bite. And replay crew, we haven't forgotten about you. If you're watching the replay, share your thoughts in the comments as well. So Dee Dee is co-signing what I was saying. Like, listen, not all Black people were slaves. And clearly, I mean, US history, lack of education, I mean,
Department of Education. We need fund schools. Like I don't mind my tax dollars. I don't have a child, but my tax dollars are going to go towards.
We need that.
We need to fund.
We do need it.
Also, Dee trolling me. Listen, when I get angry, nobody knows who the hell I am. Okay, the accent comes out. But also, Dee asking a proper question. Who would you all recommend besides Beverly Jenkins as it relates to historical romance?
I would say check out Vanessa Riley, JJ McAvoy, Liana de la Rosa, who, I mean, those are set in England, but they feature Mexican heroines. So I think that those are a very interesting take. And I mean, those are coming out with a pretty trade that we were just talking about, trade size, but you know, all the other ones you can probably find with the regular mass market. Vanessa Riley has written extensively. So yeah, I think that there's definitely variety of settings, diversity in characters. So yeah, I would check out those. JJ McAvoy has a series that I would say is quite similar to Bridgerton. So if you're looking for that kind of still ballrooms, but with diverse characters, also another one that's really good and likes to write diverse characters and settings and like interesting characters as well in like what they do is Courtney Milan. So I would also check that out.
And if you want some Caribbean, Indian, you know, Emily Howard has quite a few series. Some of them are with some issues, but you know, I think it's we get some of the Korean influence there.